Does your current social media content strategy not do a good job at engaging with your audience? Well, if that's the case, then today's video is going to help you do all the things that are necessary to get more likes, comments, shares, and just overall engagement on your social media. And first things first, you've got to really know who your audience is and what it is that's going to resonate well with them. You want to know things like who they are, what are their pain points, what are their aspirations, what are their interests, and what are the things that they already are engaging with and are most likely to engage with. If you don't already know what that is, you can easily test that out by doing a lot of different types of posts, and we're going to cover a few of those here today. And at the basis of everything that we're going to be talking about is something referred to as storytelling. And it's simply exactly that. It's just ways for you to be able to tell your story, your unique story about your brand, your business, your products, or even yourself to your audience. Now, the reason that you want to tell your story is so that way your audience can relate to you and find out more about you. That will help them to align with you or not and determine who really is your audience and who's going to be most interested in what you have to offer. And when you do make posts on social media, think about something called the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you should be telling some type of story, providing value in the ways that we'll be talking about here in just a minute, and only about 20% of the time should you be asking favors out of your audience. Because if you get to be one of those pages or brands that's constantly telling your audience to do this or that or to buy something, that's not really going to build that relationship and that trust. They're just going to see you as some sleazy salesperson and not actually a reputable brand that they can trust and follow and be a part of. Now, what are some ways that you can tell those stories? Well, the first way is using visual appeal. And this could be in the form of photography or videography. You can do this as simple single image posts. You can do carousels, you could do reels, you could do long form content. Virtually the possibilities are endless, but what you're looking for in this realm is to create high quality visual elements that help tell your story and showcase whatever it is that you and your brand are about. Now, you don't have to be able to navigate some fancy camera and know the inner workings of photography. You can use something as simple as your cell phone to take these photos and videos. In fact, a lot of times when you use something as simple as a phone, it resonates a lot better with your audience because it looks more raw and realistic, not something that's very clean and polished and oftentimes perceived as fake. Now, an example here is, say you're an arts or crafts person and you've created a new art piece. Rather than trying to convince your audience to buy that piece, perhaps telling the story of how it came to be, what your inspirations were, or even some behind the scenes of how you made it is what you want to actually create and put out there. Now, depending on what type of brand or business that you have and how much time you actually have to create these things, you might not always have a lot of time that you can allocate to creating new photos and videos or just fresh ideas. That's when the topic of user-generated content, shortened to UGC, comes into play. Essentially, user-generated content is very simple to understand. It's content generated by users. 9 times out of 10, your audience members. Now, you can convince your audience to create this content for you by asking them to take pictures of your products or services using your hashtags, tagging your business accounts on various social media platforms, etc. Over time, as you build your brand and your business, a lot of people are just going to do this on their own. And when you start seeing other people create this, you can simply reach out to them and ask them for permission to reshare those images or those videos on your profile. You could share them to your stories, your actual feed, whatever it is. Just make sure you get the permission first because that always looks a lot better and it can avoid some potential legal problems down the road. Now, another type of content you could be putting out there is educational content. Here's an example. My wife and I own a small bookstore. So if we want to put out educational content, we might tell people the stories behind certain authors. We might tell them about the themes of certain books. Or we might go into a whole list of banned books and why they're banned and where they're banned from. We're providing them some type of value that's not just come into our store and buy our products, but hey, did you ever think about why this book was titled this? Or what happened to that author? Or what the story was behind this character? Now, depending on what your business is, that might look a little different. Maybe you're a business that makes cider and you want to talk about that process. Educate your audience on how you get from an apple in an orchard to a bottle of liquid that gets you feeling a little dizzy if you've drunk too much. People love the form of education, and it goes so well with telling your story. Now, if you're still struggling to get some engagement, there's a few other things you can do as well, one of which is to send out calls to action. Ask your audience members to tag a friend who needs this new product or service. Tell them to tag a friend for a giveaway. It doesn't always have to be incentive driven, and I don't think that prizes and giveaways are always the best way to build your audience, but it's something that can be done from time to time. The problem with those is a lot of people will only follow your page or like your page or share it just to get that prize. And then after that's over, if they don't really see anything like that happening again, they're not really going to be a very active member of your audience. So try to keep those to a minimum, but other calls to action are going to be very powerful. Do things like polls, have fun in the comments, put your favorite GIF down there, whatever it is. Do fun little things. And maybe 20% of the time you can ask people to sign up for your newsletter or to do other things. Now, if you are starting to get engagement or not a ton, one thing that you need to remember is that social media is a two-way street. So just because you put a post out there and people start commenting and doing the things you want them to do, doesn't mean that the work is over for you, because you need to keep that momentum going. You need to be commenting back. You need to be liking things. You need to be engaging in conversation to create community. Because the more that you can engage with people on your post and the more that they continue to engage back, the more you're going to get rewarded from the social platform to have that post potentially pushed out to even more people in your current audience and possibly even new potential clients, customers, and audience members. The real big takeaway that I would like you to get out of today is that social media doesn't have to be hard. At the core fundamentals, all you need to know is who your audience is and how can you tell them your story. Whatever that you can do to keep that 80-20 rule in line, be consistent with your content, and just really find what resonates well with your audience is going to make you successful. There's no deep, dark secrets to social media. It's all about finding that audience, knowing what resonates with them, and creating content around that and continuing to do that over time. But let me know in the comment section below, what are some of the hardest things about social media for you? What are some areas that you're struggling in, and where can I help you out? Let's continue that conversation in the comments section below. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, be sure to create something new today.